A lot of women spend way too much energy asking the wrong questions. How do I get him to choose me? How do I get him to commit? How do I make him see what I'm worth? How do I say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right amount of everything, so that he finally decides I'm the one? These questions feel productive. They feel like you're taking action, like you're doing something about the uncertainty instead of just sitting in it. But underneath all of them is the same quiet, exhausting assumption that love is something you have to earn, prove, and win over and over again, like there's a test you keep almost passing. Here's the thing. The right man never makes you spend years trying to talk him into wanting you. He doesn't need a pitch. He doesn't need you to stand in front of him presenting a list of reasons why you are worthy of love. He doesn't need endless explanations about how much you care, how much you have changed, or how you can become the person he has been waiting for. Because when someone truly sees your value, you do not have to convince them of it. You do not have to constantly prove that you are enough. You do not have to compete with an imaginary standard in his mind. You do not have to perform, shrink yourself, or reshape your personality just to fit into the space he has created. Because the moment you start believing that love must be earned through perfection, you begin losing the most important relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. Many people enter relationships carrying a silent belief that they have to become better before they can be fully loved. They think they need to be more beautiful, more interesting, more successful, more patient, more available, or less emotional. They begin editing themselves like a book, removing certain chapters, changing certain words, and hiding certain parts because they fear the other person might stop reading if they see the full story. But healthy love is not built on a performance. You are not supposed to be an actor trying to deliver the perfect version of yourself every day just to keep someone's attention. You are not supposed to wake up wondering which version of yourself will be accepted today. The right connection does not require you to constantly monitor your words, hide your feelings, or calculate every action because you are afraid one mistake will make someone leave. When you are with someone who truly values you, you feel safe enough to be human. You can have difficult days. You can make mistakes. You can have fears and insecurities. You can express your needs without feeling like you are creating a burden. You can be honest about what hurts you without worrying that vulnerability will make you less desirable. Because love is not supposed to be a stage where you are constantly trying to impress someone sitting in the audience. It is supposed to be a place where two people can stand beside each other without pretending. But many people unknowingly accept relationships where they feel like they are always trying to reach an invisible finish line. They believe that if they just become a little more understanding, a little less demanding, a little easier to love, then finally they will receive the reassurance they have been waiting for. They start asking themselves questions like, maybe if I don't bring up my feelings, things will be easier. Maybe if I stop needing reassurance, they will stay. Maybe if I become exactly what they want, they will finally choose me. But love that requires you to disappear is not love that allows you to grow. There is a difference between becoming a better version of yourself and becoming a different person just to be accepted. Growth comes from self-respect. It comes from wanting to heal, learn, and improve because you care about yourself and your future. But changing yourself because you are terrified someone will leave creates a life where you are constantly abandoning your own needs to protect someone else's comfort. And over time, that creates exhaustion. You become disconnected from your own voice. You stop asking what makes you happy and start asking what will make someone else stay. You stop expressing your true thoughts because you fear conflict. You stop showing your personality because you fear rejection. Slowly, you become a guest in your own life. The painful truth is that no amount of perfection can force someone to love you deeply if they are not willing or able to offer that love. You could be the most supportive person in the world. You could give endless patience, endless understanding, and endless chances. You could become everything you believe someone wants. But if someone does not recognize your value, you may spend years trying to prove something that was never yours to prove. Your worth is not a debate. Your heart is not a product that needs better marketing. Your presence is not something that requires constant justification. The right person does not make you feel like you are always one step away from being replaced. They do not create a relationship where you feel like you have to compete with other people, unrealistic expectations, or a fantasy version of who you should be. They see you as a whole person. They understand that love is not about finding someone without flaws. It is about finding someone whose imperfections you can understand, whose heart you can respect, and whose presence feels like a place where both people can be real. You should never have to become smaller to make someone feel bigger. You should never have to silence your dreams to make someone comfortable. You should never have to hide your emotions because someone only wants the easy parts of you. A person who truly cares about you will not only love your confidence, they will also have compassion for your vulnerable moments. They will not only appreciate your happiness, they will also support you when life feels heavy. Because real connection is not created by two perfect people. It is created by two authentic people. The most beautiful relationships are not the ones where two people pretend they never struggle. They are the ones where both people can say, "This is who I am. This is where I am growing. This is what I need." And instead of judgment, they find understanding. Instead of pressure, they find partnership. Instead of fear, they find safety. So release the burden of trying to convince someone that you are worthy. You were worthy before they noticed you. You were worthy before they chose you. And you will remain worthy regardless of whether someone has the ability to recognize it. The person who is meant to walk beside you will not ask you to destroy yourself to become lovable. They will not fall in love with a version of you that you created out of fear. They will appreciate the person who was there all along. The person you were before you started questioning whether you were enough. The right person does not fall in love with a carefully edited version of you. They recognize the real you, the imperfect you, the person who has flaws, fears, dreams, and scars. They do not require you to become someone else before they choose you. There is a difference between someone who needs time to understand their feelings and someone who keeps you trapped in a cycle of uncertainty. There is a difference between a person who is genuinely working through their emotions and a person who enjoys receiving your love while avoiding the responsibility of giving theirs. Love should not feel like a job interview where you are constantly trying to prove you deserve the position. You should not have to wake up every morning wondering, what more can I do to make him choose me? You should not have to analyze every message, every pause, every small gesture, trying to find evidence that maybe this time he finally understands your worth. Because the truth is, the right man does not need 100 reminders of your value. He notices. He pays attention. He sees the way you care, the way you support him, the way you bring peace into his life. A man who genuinely wants you will not leave you feeling like you are fighting for a place in his heart. He will create space for you. He will make his intentions clear. He will not make you feel like you are asking for too much simply because you want consistency, respect, and emotional security. Many people spend years trying to earn love from someone who has already decided how much they are willing to give. They believe that if they become more patient, more understanding, more attractive, more successful, or more perfect, the other person will finally wake up and choose them. But love does not work like a locked door where you have to find the right key to convince someone to let you in. The right connection is not built on persuasion. It is built on recognition. When someone truly wants to build something with you, you will feel the difference. Their actions will match their words. Their effort will not disappear when things become difficult. They will not only show interest when they are lonely, bored, or afraid of losing access to you. They will show up because your presence matters to them. And this does not mean relationships are always effortless. Every person has fears, insecurities, and moments where they struggle. Real love still requires communication, patience, and growth. But there is a difference between growing together and constantly trying to convince someone to care. One requires two people holding the rope together. The other leaves you pulling alone. You should never have to beg someone to see what is already in front of them. The right man will not make you feel like a difficult choice. He will not treat your love like something he has to evaluate endlessly. He will not keep you waiting in an emotional waiting room, hoping your number will finally be called. He will choose you with clarity. Not because you convinced him, not because you chased him until he surrendered, not because you became everything he wanted while losing pieces of yourself. He will choose you because being with you feels right. And perhaps the hardest lesson to accept is that sometimes we spend so much energy trying to make someone recognize our worth that we forget to recognize it ourselves. You begin measuring your value through their attention. Their replies become your reassurance. Their distance becomes your insecurity. Their approval becomes the thing you chase. But your worth was never created by someone else's decision. Someone can fail to appreciate a diamond, but that does not turn it into a stone. Someone can walk away from something valuable, but that does not make it worthless. The right person will not need you to constantly explain why you matter. They will experience your presence and understand it. They will see your heart through your actions. They will appreciate the love you bring instead of making you feel like you have to earn the privilege of being loved. So stop exhausting yourself trying to become unforgettable to someone who keeps choosing to forget your importance. Stop rewriting yourself for someone who refuses to read your story. The person meant to walk beside you will not require you to abandon yourself just to keep them interested. They will not ask you to dim your light so they can feel comfortable standing next to you. Real love does not ask you to beg for a place. It meets you halfway. It chooses you. And most importantly, it allows you to remain fully yourself while being loved. If you find yourself building a case for why he should stay, why he should try harder, why he should finally see what's right in front of him, that's not effort. That's a warning sign disguised as devotion. Real love was never supposed to feel like a courtroom. He doesn't leave you guessing where you stand. This is one of those things that sounds simple on paper, but feels enormous when you're actually living it. Think about how much mental space gets taken up by not knowing, replaying a conversation to see if you missed a clue, wondering if a slow reply means something, trying to figure out if a distant mood is about you or about his day, asking your friends to analyze a text message like it's a piece of evidence in a trial. That kind of uncertainty doesn't feel like romance, even though it can masquerade as it for a while. It feels like standing on ground that shifts every time you try to plant your feet. A man who's actually right for you doesn't require you to become an investigator in your own relationship. You're not left decoding silences or searching for hidden meaning in his behavior, because there isn't a hidden meaning to search for. What you see is close to what you get, and that alone, just knowing where you stand, is worth more than 100 grand gestures, because it means you get to actually relax into the relationship instead of constantly managing it. He doesn't make you feel like you're auditioning for a spot in his life. This is maybe the most painful version of all of this, because it doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. It can look like always being the one who reaches out first. It can look like adjusting your personality depending on his mood, softening your opinions, downplaying your needs, trying to be easy, breezy, low maintenance, because some part of you has learned that asking for more might cost you the relationship altogether. It can look like celebrating the bare minimum, a good morning text, a Saturday actually spent together, a moment where he seems present, as though these are wins instead of basic expectations. When you're auditioning, you're not being loved, you're being evaluated. And evaluation is exhausting in a way that real connection never is, because you're constantly performing a version of yourself instead of just existing as you are and being wanted anyway. And that's something a lot of women figure out way later than they should. Sometimes only after years have already gone into a relationship that never once felt secure. Sometimes it takes looking back at a string of situationships, almost relationships, and on-again, off-again cycles to notice the pattern. The chasing, the convincing, the waiting for someone to finally catch up to how much you already care. It's easy to mistake the effort you're putting in for proof that the relationship is worth saving. Effort feels like commitment. Struggle feels like meaning, but effort that only flows one direction isn't commitment, it's imbalance. And a relationship you have to constantly fight to keep alive isn't a relationship you're in, it's a relationship you're carrying. The hardest part is that none of this is usually obvious in the moment. When you're in it, you don't see the pattern, you just see him, and the good days, and the potential, and the version of him you're hoping he'll become once he finally realizes what he has. Hindsight is the only thing that makes it clear how much time and energy went into convincing someone to choose you instead of simply being chosen. And once you see that pattern for what it is, you can't unsee it. You start noticing it in yourself, in your friends, in the language women use without even realizing it. I just need him to see my worth. I know he'll come around. I just have to be patient a little longer. Underneath all of that language is the same exhausting question, over and over. How do I make him choose me? But the real answer isn't a better strategy for convincing him. It's recognizing that the right person was never going to need convincing in the first place. When a man is genuinely right for you, the relationship still isn't flawless. You'll still hit rough patches, you'll still argue, you'll still go through hard seasons together, but certain patterns show up consistently, not because he's perfect, not because life magically stops throwing obstacles at you, but because when a man actually sees a future with you, it shows up in how he acts. The issue is a lot of women overlook those patterns. They get caught up in the sparks, the excitement, the intensity of it all, and miss the stuff that actually counts. So let's go through 5 things that tend to happen almost without fail when a man is truly right for you. First, you're not stuck trying to convince him to care. This might be the biggest indicator of all. You're not spending your relationship begging him to call, negotiating for his time, pleading for effort, or talking him into showing you basic attention. So many women end up stuck in relationships where they're constantly fighting for the bare minimum, asking for attention, asking for consistency, asking for communication, asking for effort, and every single conversation turns into a negotiation. But when a man is actually meant for you, his care isn't something you have to drag out of him. It just shows up naturally. That doesn't mean he's a mind reader. It doesn't mean he's never going to mess up. But it does mean that what he does over and over tells you that you matter to him. Because here's the truth. People make time for the things that matter to them. They invest in what matters. They protect what matters. A man who genuinely wants you in his life isn't someone you have to keep reminding that you exist. One of the most draining things a woman can go through is feeling like she's the only one holding the relationship together, always the one reaching out, always the one smoothing things over, always the one chasing, always the one doing the emotional, heavy lifting. A relationship that's actually right doesn't feel like that because you're not the only one putting in the work. And that matters because love was never supposed to be a one-person job. Second, he brings you calm, not constant confusion. So many women mistake emotional chaos for passion. The hot and cold texting, the mixed signals, the not knowing where you stand, constantly wondering if he still likes you, if he still cares, why he's acting distant, where things are even headed. And somehow all that uncertainty gets mislabeled as love. But confusion isn't proof that someone's right for you. It's usually a sign that something's off. When a man is actually meant for you, you're not spending your days trying to decode his behavior. You don't need to send screenshots to your group chat trying to figure out what he really meant. You're not turning into a detective because his intentions are already clear. Not perfect, clear. Those are 2 very different things. You just know he cares. You know he values what you have. You know he's actually present. And that creates a real sense of peace. That kind of emotional calm is one of the most underrated forms of attraction out there. A lot of women don't even realize how worn down they've become until they're finally in a relationship that feels safe, one where they're not bracing for something to go wrong, one where steadiness replaces the chaos. That's not boring. That's healthy. And healthy can feel strange at first if chaos is what you're used to. Third, his decisions take you into account. This one's huge. A man who actually sees you in his future starts thinking differently. His choices stop being just about him. He starts weighing how those choices affect you too. Not because you're controlling him, not because you're demanding it, but because that's simply what happens when someone becomes important to you. Think about it. When someone really matters to you, they naturally factor into how you make decisions. You think about their feelings, their schedule, what they need, where they're headed. The same thing happens in a real relationship. A man who's actually right for you doesn't treat you like you're just passing through his life. He makes space for you. He thinks ahead with you in mind. He factors the relationship into his choices. And that's one of the clearest signs that you're not just part of his present. You're part of where he sees himself going. A lot of women pay attention to what a man says, but the better question is whether his actual decisions include you. Because talk is easy. What someone actually prioritizes shows up in what they do. Fourth, you feel more like yourself, not less. This might be the sign that gets overlooked the most. A lot of women assume that love means shrinking, giving up pieces of who they are, making themselves smaller, constantly adjusting to keep the peace. But a relationship that's actually good for you does the complete opposite. It helps you become more fully yourself, not less. You're not putting on a performance. You're not hiding parts of your personality. You're not walking on eggshells. You're not living in fear that one wrong move will make him walk away. Instead, you feel accepted. You feel seen. You feel safe. And because of that, you relax. You stop trying so hard to be flawless. Stop overthinking every word. Stop living on edge. One of the strongest signs a man is truly right for you is that your life gets bigger around him, not smaller. You keep growing. You keep dreaming. You keep becoming who you're supposed to become. Because real, healthy love supports your growth. It doesn't ask you to erase yourself. And any relationship that requires you to disappear just to survive is asking way more of you than it should. Fifth, the relationship actually moves forward. This is the one a lot of women avoid thinking about too hard because it forces them to face reality. When a man is genuinely right for you, things progress. Maybe not fast, maybe not perfectly, but there's forward motion, there's growth, there's change. Too many women find themselves stuck in the same spot for years, waiting, hoping, wondering, trying to be patient, trying not to ask for too much, while nothing actually shifts. The relationship stays stuck in place. The conversations stay vague. The commitment never gets defined. The future stays foggy. And before you know it, years have gone by. Here's a hard truth. People don't need years to know if they want to build something with someone. They might need time for circumstances to line up, time for logistics, time to grow. But real interest always creates movement. A man who genuinely sees a future with you isn't going to stay frozen in place forever. He takes steps. He has real conversations. He makes actual plans. He creates progress because people naturally move toward what they truly want. That's why standing still is often one of the clearest answers a woman can get. If nothing's moving, that's worth paying attention to because real relationships are meant to grow, not stay frozen in time. Notice what didn't make this list. Looks, money, chemistry, big romantic gestures. None of that actually guarantees someone is right for you because the strongest relationships aren't built on intensity. They're built on consistency. The right man doesn't leave you constantly questioning your own worth. He doesn't make you beg for basic effort. He doesn't make you feel like loving you is some kind of chore for him. Instead, what he does creates clarity, peace, security, progress, and growth. That's why the real sign a man is meant for you isn't that he says all the right words. It's that how he acts actually makes your life better, not perfect. Better. Because when a man is genuinely right for you, you won't spend years trying to force something into existence that isn't there. You'll see real effort, you'll see real intention, you'll see real movement, and most of all, you'll see consistency. A relationship that's actually right for you doesn't make you fight for basic love. It gives you every reason to trust it.